10:07, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Board Chair Quiroz.
Present.
Board Treasurer Vargas.
Present.
That's 2 of 3 reporting. Quorum established at 10:07.
Before we actually review and approve the agenda, I'd like to remind the board members and other staff, when speaking, please try to speak close to the microphone so that the audio version could be captured. Okay. Are there any recommended changes to the agenda? I see that item 6.2 budget update has been deleted.
We're going to carry on with that. Just
We are going to have it?
Just a few words for Mr. Mendoza.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Any other budget changes? Can I have a motion to accept the budget as presented? I mean, the agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Okay. I will second that, I guess. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Item number 3, announcements. Are there any announcements from the community?
The biggest event that we have going on this week is the renewal vote for John Henry High School, and I believe that there'll be some more discussion about that in the instructional update, so I'll leave it for that item.
Hearing no other announcements, I'd like to move to item number 4, consent calendar. 4.1, approval of the board of the 10/23 and December 3rd meetings. Are there any changes, additions, deletions? Is there a motion to accept the October 23rd and December 3rd minutes?
I move to accept the December 3rd and October 23rd minutes.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the board meeting minutes have been approved. Item number 5, public comment, open session. Are there any public comments?
We have one public comment from Mr. Don Gosney of Radio Free Richmond. Mr. Gosney, the floor is yours for 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. I have every confidence that this board wants to embrace transparency so the public can share on what you're doing. But sometimes your actions suggest otherwise. Take this meeting, for example. Why is it being hosted early on a workday morning, a 75-minute drive away from half of your schools with no notice on your website? By the way, it took me 20 minutes to travel the last quarter mile on the freeway. Not your fault, but many of the parents in this Richmond area ask me to come to these meetings so because they cannot be here. They want me to video them so they can at least see the meetings afterwards. The same goes for the WCCUSD, which issued your charters. How are we supposed to comment on items when we have no idea what you'll be discussing beforehand? No packet, no packet material. The only way we learned of this meeting was due to a notice posted at one of your schools late last week. Once we looked past on your calendar, which doesn't show this meeting, we found that the agenda hidden elsewhere on your site. I knew then I should come. Still, no agenda packets posted items, or agenda packet items posted for us to see in advance. And when you schedule your regular board meetings, do you purposely select dates that conflict with the WCCUSD board meetings to ensure that WCCUSD staff and parents have to choose which is the more important meeting to attend? In West County, we have one charter school that holds their board meetings 60 miles away in the middle of the workday, another that holds their meetings 30 miles away in Vallejo in the middle of a workday, others that barely announce their meetings. Is there any wonder why the level of distrust is so high when charter schools feed the anti-charter people with so much ammunition? Please try to host your meetings where the public can actually attend and provide us with advance notice and the agenda packets. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gosney. Are there any other public comments?
No.
I'd like to now move to agenda item number 6, presentations, 6.1 instructional updates.
Ms. Villa, do you have instructional update? Please grab the mic there.
Do I just stand here?
Either way.
Good morning. Good morning, I'm Eve Levia, Bay Area Regional Superintendent. Mr. Stefan briefly mentioned the John Henry renewal, which will be taking place this Wednesday, December 18th at 6 o'clock at Dijon Middle. We're preparing ourselves to attend and to be ready to answer questions that are probably going to be asked by the district. Right now, as it stands, the recommendation is not to renew John Henry, so we'll see how the board votes. Other than that, I'm going to bring up Mr. Johnny because we had an ACES visit at Oakland Charter Academy, and we do have some updates on what we will be doing to ensure that we are able to maintain and continue to have a great ACES program at Oakland Charter Academy. I know ACES, I've done some presentations on what ACES means, an after-school program, and we right now have about $177,000 coming from the CDE for this particular grant. So with that, I'll bring Mr. Johnny.
Good morning, everybody. Steve
Good morning.
Johnny. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we had from the Alameda Office of Education, the gentleman who was over our ACES funding came out to visit our site about 2 weeks ago. And the purpose of this meeting was to see our program in action and to give us feedback that would help us continue to receive our full funding. The biggest threat to the full funding right now is attendance. We've taken multiple steps to increase attendance by sending letters home for academic remediation for students, and also by creating more hooks that would provide students with experiences that they wouldn't normally receive. Currently, Dr. Ellenberg is working on creating a music video where students will learn filming, they will learn coordination, and they will learn just all the production that it takes to produce such a video. So our hope with creating a clear vision for what our ACES program would be is that everybody understands that the purpose is to create experiences for students that they might not normally receive, and for academic enrichment as well. So if we do not receive full funding, we will, because of attendance, we will have chances to get that funding back by bringing up our attendance next year.
Any questions? I have a question. So how much is at risk of the budget reduction?
So he did not give us a number.
Okay.
We'll find out what we'll receive in the spring, and then we'll build our program around that.
Thank you.
What's the attendance gap?
So we would want to bring in, I believe it's about 60 more students.
Of how many currently?
Currently, we are at about 60.
Oh, wow. So it's a 50% gap.
Yes, yes. So
that
we've seen.
That didn't happen just yesterday, right?
No. This has happened over the course of a few years. The
Uh-huh.
reasons for the attendance drop, there's been a change in coordinators. Students need more things to be excited about in that program.
Mhm.
And additionally, everything that was going on at Bond Street, parents wanted their children to come home directly after school. So with Bond Street now being clear and creating a clear vision and hook for the program, we'll see attendance go back up.
What was the peak that we ever had in terms of attending that program?
I'm not sure what the highest ever has been, but we have increased since the beginning of the school.
Okay. Is there any deadline ideally, or is there any like a timeline for how this growth is going to happen? Or
So
any benchmark?
they will mark our numbers by where we stand going into the end of this week.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't mind me interjecting.
Mhm.
Please.
Yeah. So, sorry. So, as you guys may recall, can you guys hear me?
I'm not sure the microphones are
For
on.
the digital recordings.
Hello? I don't think it's on.
I don't think they're turned on.
It's just on.
Push it up.
Yeah, it's just. Hello? Can you guys hear me? All right. First and foremost, ACES is overseen by Grace Borgia. She did a presentation. You guys, I oversee, supervise Grace. So typically, the ACES program, it's funding, and it's based on the attendance not only for this year, but also they take attendance from the prior year. It's a combination of last year's attendance, last quarter last year, and this quarter this year. Currently, our funding is about 177%, plus or minus 5,000. But given the fact that our attendance has been lower this year, as Mr. Johnny mentioned, they came and did an overview in order to provide us some sort of feedback on how to better the program. However, we have yet to have received their recommendations. The recommendations should be coming in hopefully within the next 30 days. The likelihood is this, is that they'll revisit the numbers based upon the actual attendance, which, by the way, I think the highest attendance of the last couple of years has been about 80, 85. In order to, in any ACES program, to be either obsolete or, in essence, for the CDE to come in and actually close out the program, we must be able to show that we're making some sort of progress, which we are, which Johnny pointed out. However, and even within the maximum amount of average ADA, this is based on ADA, not only based on this year, but also last year, which I believe for this particular school is somewhere between 117 students. Even then, we have a threshold, and the minimum threshold, actually there's two thresholds. One is 85% of that, and the other one is 75% of that number. So there is, as you can see, it's not just about just shutting it down. There's room for improvement, and B, as long as once we get that feedback over the next 30 days, then we'll have a better idea, you know, what we're looking at for the upcoming year. So I just want to provide you with that.
It's been, last year we had a pretty bad attendance, and the record keeping of that I wasn't aware that they were at 41% of attendance last year, so it was pretty low. Now in Bronx Street, we had a bunch of homeless encampments, so the parents sometimes don't feel it's safe enough to leave their children, so that also contributes. And if we look at the attendance record for the year, you'll see that during this time, it's like when it dips a little bit, it's cold, it's dark, and our parents sometimes want their kids to jump on the bus. But we're confident that we're going to be bringing some programs where the kids will be excited to stay.
And what are some of the strategies or approaches that we're trying to implement to increase that number?
We're going to try to bring rowing back, the Oakland Strokes. We're trying to do like the lacrosse. We're trying to get other things that the kids are excited about to stay, you know, it's not just tutoring. And so we do have our report card ending semester one. Semester one will be ending when we come back from break. So we're going to do a reshuffling of just students where they should be placed at. We have chess. We're talking to Strokes again, because we used to have the Oakland Strokes come to Oakland Charter Academy. We had a really good attendance like 7 years ago, so we're trying to get them back, and also lacrosse, and maybe some other programs.
Also working with our FSTs to understand what our families and what our students want in these programs, because in middle school is a lot different than elementary. Elementary, you build it, the parents are usually bought in quickly. For middle school, it has to be student buy-in. So making sure we have that student voice in creating our programs.
Simple as bringing yearbook back too. I think that's what's cut off.
You said yearbook?
Yearbook, yeah. The other two schools that have the ACES programs are trying to mimic some of their programs too.
Okay, are there any other updates on instructional updates?
Can I have a question for Ms. Lee?
Sure.
On the renewal on Wednesday, what's the reasons that the staff is presenting for non-renewal?
Top of my head is SPED, and I believe turnover in the governance board as well.
Alright. In the governance board of asking us?
Yeah.
Okay. And SPED, why SPED?
Something with the minutes. The attachment I should have brought it to you all, but it's in the, yeah.
Oh, thank you. So, when was this released?
It was released Friday.
Just this Friday?
Just Friday.
Oh, wow. So you didn't really have a chance to go and check what is that we can do to explain? I mean, how does this go about? I mean,
We're gonna meet.
What is that we're on SPED?
Yeah, we're going to meet today at 1 to discuss how to hit the points.
Okay. I saw that the ACOE, I was sharing with David, I was checking the presentations for renewals and expansions for other charters, and the board rejected those. There seems to be definitely an stance for no growth from charter schools in at the county. That was really the problem. The aggressive target may have been an issue for that particular charter that caused the board to be, even though the academic, which is striking to me, the academic performance is extremely It's one of the best in the nation, actually. And yet, the board voted not to approve the extension. They were planning to grow from 450 AD to 1,400 in the next decade. And that seemed to have been something hard to digest for the board, you know. I believe we really should emphasize the academic performance that we are causing. We obviously are not striving for, 10 times expansion, right? Or anything like that. The focus is to make sure we are performing, right, from the academic point of view. Yeah, so if we can talk about this maybe before the meeting or the phone, just to see
sure.
if we can.
I guess that's something.
That's right. Because right now we don't need to do anything as board members, right?
No.
Okay. Thanks.
Do we need a motion to accept, or just information item?
No, no motion necessary.
Okay. Well, any other questions regarding instructional updates? Not hearing any. I'd like to move to item 6.2, budget update.
Hello, everyone. As far as the budget update, and just to respond to your question, so last board meeting, we completed and we approved the interims. So the interim is basically kind of like a report card for the authorizers. So those were approved by the board. Actually, they were, and then following the board approval, the interims for Oakland Unified School District were submitted the following day. No questions, no follow-ups from that. And the interims for Richmond Unified School District were also submitted last week. So in reference to the existing budget in play, EdTech, now that they're officially on board, will be doing the next presentation, which will probably at that point will reflect that we're going to be about 50–60% of the actual budget for 1920. And that presentation will take place next month. Yeah, January meeting, correct. So that's all I have for that.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thanks. I just was curious because I remember we had approved that first interim, so I was curious what this update was supposed to be about.
Correct. So they were approved, they were submitted. We have yet to hear back from any of our authorizers, which
That's the
yeah,
update.
yeah. Exactly.
Well, the concern now is based on what I just heard, that we have a significant threat to the budget if something, God forbid, happens with John Henry.
Correct. Correct.
So, but we'll talk about that after Wednesday.
Correct.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to move to item number 3, CEO update.
There really isn't much of an update except what was discussed already.
Okay, thank you. Now I'd like to move to item number 7.1, nomination of Gilbert Lopez to serve on the Board of Governors. I had the opportunity to have a very, very productive, very meaningful conversation with Mr. Lopez over the phone, and I found him to be highly credible, exceptional experience, and a very notable passion for the work and the community that he represents. So with that, I'd like to recommend as the nominating committee that we offer an opportunity for Mr. Lopez to serve as a board member. Can I now get a motion to accept that?
Is there a discussion or?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
First of all, no relation with Mr. Lopez, our former CEO and the founder, right?
You know, I haven't asked that, but should I verify that?
No, it was just a curiosity.
Okay.
Yeah. And second, how do you know Mr. Lopez? Or?
Oh, he was nominated to the nominating committee,
Uh-huh.
so I received a copy of his resume and then arranged for a phone interview. It was more of a passionate discussion. It wasn't really an interview. We shared a lot of our background and our commitment to young people, and he demonstrated a number of examples. He's a former hired officer, retired officer from the Richmond Police Department, and was instrumental in transforming much of the policies around community policing within the Richmond. So I was very impressed with what he did in terms of bringing his troops, and troops, that's not the right word, I guess his police force into really understanding and making some fundamental policy changes around community policing in Richmond.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions or discussion?
No, me.
Is there a motion then to accept the nominations committee recommendation?
I move to accept the nomination from the nomination committee regarding Mr. Lopez.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so Mr. Baca, would you please send him an invitation to join us? And I guess, David, you'll be coordinating the orientation and onboarding.
Correct. Yep.
Thank you.
I will do.
Okay, moving to item number 2.7, 2018-2019 audit statements.
Dear board members, you have the, I uploaded the audit for this past year, fiscal year in 18-19. I also provided you guys a brief sheet. In essence, you know, we go through this process of a yearly audit pretty much throughout the fiscal year. What you have in front of you is the final draft. Once the final draft is actually approved by the board, then I communicate back to our auditor, which is Squire Milner, and then we're able to, in essence, get a finalized audit for 18-19. As noted in front of you, what you have is, as I mentioned, the audit, which primarily covers the operational and financial presentation of the organization as of fiscal year and this past year. I kind of notated what there's no fiscal impact, given the fact that what we received this year was an unmodified opinion. And what that means in layman's terms is basically that there's no negative findings located within our 18-19 audit. If you refer to pages 37, 38, and 39 within the audit that was provided to you, in essence, what it says is that we go through a very audit of various sections, and it basically just gives you an overview that said, based upon all the various findings of the various samplings that they completed on those 3 pages, that we are in essence getting a modified opinion. The other thing is that, thank you very much, Board Member Hernan. There was a couple of things that he notated on the draft. There was a few questions that were highlighted. You may have seen the response, I believe it was last Wednesday, in reference to those questions. In essence, just to the questions related around, you know, we have a bit more in terms of lease costs and CAMs that are currently reflected on fiscal year and 18-19's results. There was also a questions in reference to be able to include a comparative analysis in our audit. I actually reached out to the auditor over the weekend. We had a discussion, and the feedback was as follows. One is that in essence, a comparative analysis is not necessarily needed, but if we were to engage in that process, it could be like either after this audit or moving forward in the future. From their experience, Squire Miller does quite a bit of public and private schools, and she highlighted that only about 2% of the actual schools that they complete audits have a comparative analysis. And sometimes, you know what, it could be, of course, to be able to modify the current draft in play, it will take a bit more in terms of just reshuffling some figures and also being able to put forth a final audit, which, as you may or may not be aware, is due through the authorizers by December 16th, which is today. With that in mind, any questions on the audit that was presented and conducted by Squatter Miller for fiscal year in 18-19?
I just have a process question.
Sure.
So, today, the school board is going to accept this draft? Is that the deadline that we were shooting for?
So today, yes, so today, so once it's being approved by the board, then we communicate back with the auditors. The auditors then finalize it, and then that will be what will be submitted as in to our authorizers and to other stakeholders.
And we have no challenges to meet that today's deadline?
No, as
Okay.
long as the audit gets approved and presented, as I mentioned, you know, we have once again in essence a clean audit based upon the what has transpired over the last few months from the sampling of Squatter Miller and a review of our operational and financial statement.
Any other questions?
Yeah, in honor of transparency, I myself believe I should be really, and everything I should touch should be in the 2%, top 2%. So I really urge us to provide as much financial information as it should be in a way that is easy for people to see.
Sure.
Because this is a non-profit and this is federally and government funded. At the Symphony, when I was a board director and a controller at the same time, the Symphony is a $90 million organization that has very little but relatively substantial government funding. But it was a non-profit and the presentation was very poor. So I have moved that from a very low ranked, you know, Guide Star rating to the top. And that required making a lot of changes in how we presented information for our own understanding as well as for the people's understanding.
Sure.
And I don't believe in just compliance. Compliance is fine, but it's not the best.
Sure.
So we should strive for the best. And that's something that I really urge, because I really would like to see how we compare against last year. For our own understanding, here we don't report anything, you know, for the auditors or whatever. I don't care.
You know, I'd love to maybe after the meeting, we can have a discussion in terms of that. Maybe moving forward, either we could conduct that internally, do a comparative analysis, or if we were to engage with the auditor as a side note, or as far as the financial, you know, what will be the time frame for that? What will be the cost factor? And you know, so, and I understand what you're saying, and it could be something that we could, you know, include moving forward.
Yeah, I can put myself a spreadsheet real quick and distribute to the board members, right? But you know, I can do that. But anyway, I really encourage us as an institution to pursue that, right?
Okay.
The other thing is, my question really on the distribution of expenses has more to do with, it gives the, I believe, maybe incorrect impression that we have a large amount of our expenses centralized, you know, or spent on things that have to do with non-educational things.
Okay, so currently, I can't recall the page, but currently the auditor breaks out what is classified as direct instructional and non-instructional. And within our budget, over the last, I would say a couple of years, we tend to, our budget is centralized somewhere between 13 and 16%. Is centralized on operating leases and additional camps. And that's, you know, That's the reality. Second of all, typically our lease structures, which we, all our facilities are leased out. We don't own any of them. They, in essence, most of them have a 3% CPI annual adjustment that takes place. So what we actually do, and we actually prepare both for the to the authorizers and also to EdTech, is we have a rent schedule that we provide to both parties, and of course from there on the auditor conducts their sampling. But it is true, we do have a sizable of our budget is centered on that. And in addition to that, this past year, the audit year, you may remember there were 2 projects that we were involved with, which is the playgrounds. So once those projects are completed, then they, in essence, remove them, into a part of it into our balance sheet, because now that project has been capitalized. So that's one of the major, variance and change from the prior year to this. And the last other noted was the fact that we also engaged and we acquired 5 vans, and we acquired 5 vans for the school. We're currently paying for those leases. So, but I do understand your concern. Okay.
So
that's.
Board Member Vargas, to your earlier question, would it be helpful if staff put that comparison together, and then next month we could review it, or perhaps it could be sent to the board between, before the next
I
board
would
meeting?
gladly like to sit down with you and see exactly, what would be the best way to present it. We can get that. I mean, we do have the audit from the prior, 4 or 5, 3, 4 years that have been presented by Square.
Is that
Sure.
satisfying?
Yeah, I would love to see a schedule showing a 5-year retrospect, so we can see, we can see really what's the trend and what things have changed. That includes the ADA too. So,
Correct.
We can make a,
We do have, and it's not as detailed. Then you may recall that presentation that we did. I think it was 4 or 5 months ago, where kind of it was a presentation to the board, which kind of showed not only the revenue stream, but also the expenditures, and of course, the ADA, the surplus and shortages that we have seen, and what were some of the indicators. And for those that have been on the board, you may recall that we were saying, hey, as we move forward, our margins have tightened, and these were some of the factors because of that. But we could definitely.
we should do an update of that, probably.
Correct.
Yeah, including these last official numbers.
And I'd like to be a part of that for my own
Okay.
understanding and information purposes, so we can do it together.
Yeah, gladly, yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, is there any more questions regarding audit statements? Not seeing any or hearing any. Is there a motion to accept the 2018-2019 audit statements as presented?
I move to accept the audit statements as presented.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So it's approved for the 2018-2019 audit statements submission this afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there any other items then? No. I'd like to now adjourn today's meeting at 10:41.
All right, meeting adjourned.